website as well. There's a tab on that website for all the webinar recordings, so you can go back there. And the recording's also available on the CEIC Digital YouTube channel. So it's on all of these sites. So today's session, we are focusing on Google Drive. As normal, there will be a chance at the end to ask any questions, and hopefully I'll be switched on. I mean, my brain is exhausted after all these questions I've had this week, but it's keeping me on my toes and it's pushing me to the limit of my learning and my ability. And I'm constantly trialing new things as well with teachers. I had a test classroom set up yesterday to see what student feedback looked like and how that all worked. So I'm learning at the same time because it's been a little while since I've used these tools with children. So we're just going to get started. And as normal, just pop your questions into the chat on the side. This chat is also recorded and there's a transcript. So if you do end up having to leave the session for any reason, you'll be able to see what questions were asked and what I see at the end as well. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen as well. So I'll just start presenting my entire screen. You'd think I'd remember all these steps by now, but nope. So I'm just sharing my screen. So this is as you can see, my slide deck. I started making these little cards to put in front of the YouTube videos. So that's yesterday's one. And what we're going to do today is we're going to look at Google Drive. So the first thing to know is how to get to Google Drive. People often just stick in Classroom. And if you are someone who's uploading Microsoft Word or PowerPoint documents, this session will show you how to convert those. So we'll talk through converting things from the Microsoft format into the Google format so it works a bit better in your Google Classroom. So first thing we do, if you're not sure how to get to Google Drive, it's easy to go to either drive.google.com, or you can simply go to google.com, select our waffle menu at the top right, the 9 tiles, and select the triangle for Drive. One thing I'll say, I'll just skip back to that. So this menu here, we can customize that. So we can click and drag and put our most used tools at the top, kind of like you do on your phone. So you can change all the order of the apps. So if there are things that you never use, so if you never use Contacts, just get rid of it and pop it down to the bottom. But if you use YouTube a lot, you can move it to the top. And there's a few more tools underneath. So we've got Jamboard here, Forms, we've got our first session on Forms is next week. And there's some other things in here. So this is a lovely little place to go to. You just need to make sure you're signed in and you can see your initial or your picture at the top right-hand side. So I'll come back into Google Drive. And this is where I said yesterday that my Google Drive is an absolute mess. So I am terrible at keeping on top of it. I just go to doc.new, create new things, don't put it into a certain folder, and I just hope at some point I'll be able to find it. First thing to note on Google Drive at the top here is this search box. I'll just zoom in so you can see that a bit more clearly. So we have this search box. I use this all the time. Also, if you've created a document recently, if you type the name of it into the bar at the top of Google here, so if I search Techie Tea Party, you'll see I've got my sites here. So they appear if you just type in the name into the Google box at the top here. That's one way that I typically find my files, because I normally work on the same file for a few days and then I don't work on it again. Other way we can do it is search Drive. So I can search Drive for Techie Tea Party and you'll see everything that's in my Drive that has that name. So again, I'm terrible at keeping things in folders. I just find it's one of those things that I do on a day where my diary's clear. And right now that's not happening. So again, you can search the name and you can see I've got WebM files there, my Screencastify recordings. I've got my green Google Sheet, I've got my site, and I've got a document as well. So Google Drive is like your My Documents, but the great thing about it when you're a teacher and you're using either your account that's in Glow or your account that's on EduBuzz, you have unlimited storage. So you don't have to worry about running out of any memory. Normally, we know what it's like when we use a work laptop and it's, you keep getting that thing, memory space full, disk space full. You'll need to delete things if you want to have this document. This is unlimited. You're never going to run out of space in Google Drive. I've got 2 GB stored here. I can see how much I've used down the left. If you have a personal account in Google and you have a Google Drive there, this basically has a bit of a bar that tells you how much space you've got left, because in your personal account, it's not unlimited. So you'll see I've got my most recent files or things that I have created or edited recently along the top. We can switch that off in settings, and I'll go over settings just in a little moment. Then we can organize it, as you can see, with folders. I did have color-coded folders, but I've obviously added more, and they're all in grey. Your folders are normally just grey, but you can change that. I tend to do it, again, if I'm bored or I'm having one of those moments where I'm trying to think of what I'm doing. And then anything that's not in a folder appears at the bottom here. So if I scroll, this is just up to the letter D, and it will keep on going. So you'll see I have a lot of files that I actually need to sort out. So we don't really recommend having it in this way. Certainly for your students, it's great practice for them to start organizing their files so they don't have this clutter, because they're going through different classes, different subjects in schools. Then having some kind of file management is quite useful. How do you get a color? Quite simply, you would create a folder, which I'll show you just shortly. You right click on the folder, and then you can change the color. So you can do that there. It's just a nice to, it's not a have to. And yes, it is drag and drop. So I'll talk through all of that in the next little bit here. So we've looked at this new button in a couple of the sessions previously, and this is where we can create a new folder for a Google Drive folder. So we can create a new folder from here. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to call this the Techie Tea Party Drive. So I'll create that. Then that will just go in, and this is always alphabetical order. You can change the way in which it's organized just using these 2 options here. So you can reverse it, or you can sort it by when you last opened it. So you could have your most recent file at the start. I typically prefer alphabetical. It's a bit more familiar and it's a bit easier for us to quickly go through. So I've now got that folder. I could change the color of it, and I'll make a nice purpley color. Oh no, it's next to a purple. I don't tend to have 2 colors the same next to each other. There we go. And so I can change the color of that. And now I can click and drag files into here, or I could highlight several just by either holding down Control and clicking on them all, or I can click and create a box around them. So you'll see I've done that. I've clicked in the white space above it, and I can make all of these highlighted, and then I can click and drag all of those files into that one folder there. And I hope that's all the files that I want to use in that folder. I hope I've not got that a bit confused. And Stuart is saying that level 92 Google Educator knowledge about the colours. So Stuart and I have a little thing going every time I have a different bit of Google knowledge, I go up a level. So level 92, hopefully level 100 by the end of next week. No such thing as a silly question. So how do you change between list view and icon view? So that's this button at the top here. So if I just scroll in and scroll along, this button next to the eye is how we change it. So I know some people who don't like this grid view. Some people much prefer to have their documents listed. So you'll see this also looks a bit more like your My Documents. So you can have it listed in this way, and then you have your list of documents below. And again, you can change how that is organized, whether it was last modified or whether it's by the name of the file. I like the grid view. I think it's just a bit more pleasing to look at when I open it. Not that, as I've said, not that I ever use any of the folders anyway. So you'll see along the top, the quick access files are there. And the way in which we can modify these settings is up at this top right with the settings cog. And then we can have it so that we can have the relevant files handy for quick access. So that's, you know, if you are using things that have maybe got child names, and then obviously we don't use Google Drive for any sensitive data. So anything that's child protection or any child's plans, anything that's sensitive in that way, that doesn't go into Google Drive. Google Drive is purely for the stuff that you would have, I think it's talk about in the classroom, you know, things that you would share in the staff room area or in the classroom, but it's not something that you would maybe keep in your filing cabinet in a school. That's a bit more sensitive. So just think about it in that way. I can clarify that later on. I'm sure there's some questions because there's quite often mixed advice given about that, but that is the direction certainly from both the Glow team, for those of you using Google Drive within Glow, and also from the information governance officers in both authorities, in both East and Mid. So it's not your sensitive data. A class list, sure, but just not down to that nitty gritty of you know, any child protection concerns or any health matters. So we don't keep that in Drive. That's all stuff that goes into CMIS, because that's the secure location for that information. So the next thing I will show you, so we've got our Drive, we've got every file that we create in Google Docs, Google Slides, any of these things is stored into our Google Drive, and it saves there automatically. If you have files on your computer that you want to back up to Google Drive, now I'm just going to ignore what I'm doing at the moment because I'm going to not convert things just yet. So if I have a Word document on my computer, which I'm not even sure I do have, I have got a spreadsheet, so that'll do. So what I can then do is I can click and drag these documents into my Google Drive to back them up. So I've got my Documents open here, and I can click and hold down Control again, and I can have both my Excel and my Microsoft Word or a PowerPoint file, and I can drag them into my Google Drive. So you'll see I've clicked and I've got the bunch of files here, and I can let go into my Google Drive, and then it will upload. And I will say it's typically quite fast. If you're doing this in school, which can cause problems, we know how school internet is, and that's not, you know, the fastest that we ever have. I would never say to do this during the school day when we know it's slow anyway. So when we are back in school, this is maybe something to do at the end of the day when we know there's a bit less traffic going on to the servers. But if you're doing this at home, it's fine. I will say again, this is not for personal information if you're doing this on your education. So even if it's your own pictures, your own videos from your nice holidays that none of us are able to go on right now, you don't save that into your Google Drive because this is your work account. You could do this on your personal Google Drive and it will work the same way, but just make sure that you're not storing your own home pictures in your school Google Drive folder. This is obviously something that's set up for education. The unlimited space is very tempting, but it's not what it's there for. And yes, it can take PDFs the exact same. Any file type, so if it's a video, a picture, PDF, Word document, any of those things, you can click and drag it over. I'm not sure if I have a PDF. Let me just see. Yeah, there's a PDF here. Click and drag it over. And then again, so then you can click on these to see where they are, and you can just open them, and then they're opening now in Google Drive. So the next thing to show you is I spoke about converting things. So these have gone in and they have, wherever they are in this massive amount of files, they have gone in and saved in the Microsoft format. So if I try and find one of them, let me do this one again. Let's see, it's gone in. And then when I click to open it, it will say edit and collaborate in real time with Excel files in Google Sheets and later. And it's not really giving me that Google kind of feeling because I'm having to click on all of these options to then actually be able to access the file. So what I can do, if I come back out of this, I can click to have things automatically convert to Google Docs editor format, which is one of our settings in our Google Drive. So in our Google Drive, we can click on settings, settings again, and then it's this box here. So let me just zoom along. You'll see it here, convert uploaded files to Google Docs editor format. And this means if we upload a Word, a PowerPoint, or a slides, a PowerPoint or a spreadsheet, it will convert it over to a docs, slides, or a sheet. So it will be able to be shared in Classroom quite easily, and you'll be able to make a copy for every student, which we cannot do if we have a Word document. A few questions here. So can you have folders within a folder? Yes, you can. And yes, it does change the formatting as well, unfortunately. So if I show you now, my Word documents are incredibly basic. So I don't tend to do very much in Word. I have very much adopted the online first way of working. And that's just because I've been using G Suite now for 6 years, I think. So I've had quite a lot of experience, and now everything I create, my personal device is a Chromebook, so everything I make is online. But that's not how everybody works. So that can be something that is very new to people, and it takes a little bit of time to get used to making something on the internet rather than making it on Word and then sharing it on the internet. So I've kind of have to unlearn some of these things. And then, so if you've got a saved Word document prior to changing the settings, would that Word document convert over? No, because you'll see here, I've still got this spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet files, and these are all things. So you'll see the X in the little square, whereas if it's a Google Sheet, it's got more of a plus sign. So they've got different symbols that go with them. So if it's a Word, it has a W in the blue rather than the 3 lines. And if it's a PowerPoint, it'll have the P in the box rather than the little square. So you can see straight away if it has converted or not. And what do you mean it's online? So yes, if now the way I work, I make everything from Google Drive. So every file I make for work is done online. So it's never done on a Word document. It's never done in a PowerPoint. If I have to use PowerPoint, I have to remind myself how to use it now, because it's not something that I typically use. So everything that I make, and this is simply because when I was using Google Classroom with students, I knew that my Word documents weren't going to share properly. So I just had to start using Google Docs. And I would say it saves you having any stress with any formatting, because you're making it in the right tool. I'll do that in inverted commas. So yeah, making it in the tool that will work best. And let's see, we've got, so a lot of East Lothian things, and I'll go over the shared drive for East Lothian distance learning as well, is typically shared in Microsoft format. And I am aware that can be a bit of a pain. So that's the main thing. So now if I upload, and I'll go through the same thing. So I'll upload another file, and let's see if there's anything that is dated. I'll share my home workout program that is in a PowerPoint. So I will drag this over, and you'll see it's got the PowerPoint symbol as I drag it in. And then what will happen is this will convert it. Hopefully I've actually saved my settings. Here we go. I've got to peer past my screen because my laptop screen covers part of my actual screen. And then if I click on this, there we go. It's now opening in slides. So this is a workout program that I've been given. I've not done any of it. But yeah, this is a program that I've been given. It's now in slides. So I can go and edit this in slides rather than it opening in the PowerPoint viewer online. So it's now gone straight into slides. So I could then share this in Google Classroom, as I'm not going to, but I could share this in Google Classroom from my Google Drive recent. You'll see it's here. It's got the slide symbol because it's at yellow with the white box. Add, and then don't delete it. add. And then if I click on the drop down, I can now make a copy for each student. So that's something that was in PowerPoint. Had I uploaded that from PowerPoint, and I can do that now. And if I drag that file in, so the exact same file, upload, it will upload this file. And then when I click on this, oh, I do have the make a copy, but it won't work in the same way for the students. So they might have to download it, or it might be a bit clunky. So I always say, make sure it's in that Google Slides format to save any issue. Would it change people's work if you uploaded it? Would it change their access to it? So it can change the formatting. This hasn't changed very much. The one thing that can happen is if you've got certain fonts that are not available on Google, so your Sassoon Primary, for example, that will not come over. It will probably change it to Times New Roman, which is horrible. And then you'll have to change that. And also, if you have lots of tables in a document, it won't really do very well with the tables. And as I said yesterday, text boxes can be a bit of a pain in Google Docs, or equations, I've been told. I've not tried equations, it's not something I tend to use. So yeah, there's a few things that won't convert over. And that's where, if it is something that you want to convert over and students just view it, I would be saving it as a PDF on your computer and then upload it, and then it won't change. So it will just stay quite nice. It'll stay in the exact format that you created it in, because it's a PDF, and PDFs go up very, very easily and they're viewed online. But if it is something you want them to edit, just be wary that if you've put a lot of work into editing it on Word, that's probably not going to go over so well. So you just need to be mindful of how you're sharing it. So the next thing I'm going to show you is just sharing a file in your Google Drive. So I've got my Techie Tea Party Drive folder here. There was a question about folders within folders. Yep, you can right click, make a new folder, name it. And then again, you can click and drag to move things in. I really hope I don't need to find any of these again. And then again, you can do your color. So if you, what I used to use the colors for was just certain subjects. So I would maybe color code them, going along with the E's and O's, you know, their little color scheme, just so it's a bit more visual. Or you could have it so that your certain things that are maybe staff work or for student work, you have them different colors. If you share it with somebody, the color doesn't get shared with them. They get to choose their own one. You'll also see in my drive here, I've got some folders, I've got a little person, and that just shows that they've been shared with other people. So if I want to share the Techie Tea Party drive, I right click on it and I get the option to share. I can also get a shareable link. So if you wanted to create a folder, and my friends were asking me about this yesterday, actually, they're creating their home learning grids all in a folder, and this is up in Aberdeen, and they were wanting to create a folder for that so that they could share that with their students in one place rather than sharing all of the documents in Classroom. So you create a folder, get the shareable link, and then just share that into Classroom. And then that just copies the link to the clipboard. The main thing to note is if I go into share, this is where you get a few more sharing options. So if I click on the get shareable link, this is where I can see if it's anyone at Edubuzz, likewise anyone at mc.glow.scot. And also if I go into more, if this was a folder of school policy documents, for example, you could make it anyone with the link can view, and then you could pop a link to that folder on the school website if you wanted the handbook or any home learning grids that you just wanted to be on the school website. You could pop them in there. But mainly, I'd be saying keep it within your organisation so that things aren't shared accidentally. And this is why we don't have sensitive data in Google Drive, because there is the option to have things public on the web. And if something that is sensitive goes public on the web, that is a data breach, which is a lot of money for local authorities to deal with. So that's why we keep it as generic information, your worksheets, etc., so that we're not having any data breaches. They're very serious things. So just make sure it's anyone in the organization, and this is where you can view and then save. Or you can share with individuals. So again, I'll use Stuart as the example. I can share it with Stuart. I can give him view only access, or I can give him access to add or edit. We'll go through that process again. Right click, share. You can get the shareable link, copy it from here, or you can share with individuals and then send. I am aware of the time, so if anyone does have any questions before they need to dash off, please pop them into the chat at the moment. So if students are having to request access to something that is on Classroom, I would just make sure that one, you own the file, so that if it's in Classroom, you're the owner of it. If it has been shared in Classroom, they shouldn't have to request permission to view it. But if it's something, say you've linked to it from another file, or you've maybe put the link in, but you've not put the shareable link on, or sometimes within Google Sites, if you use Google Sites and you share a document in Google Sites, then you need to make sure that the Make Shareable link is switched on. Because if you've not shared it in that way, basically what will happen is that the file, they won't have access to it. You will see it because you own the file when you put these things into a document, but they won't because they don't have access to see it. Gus is just saying that sometimes the problem is they're logged in with their sibling or parent's account, so they have to request access. So again, it's just making sure that they are logged into the correct Edubuzz or mc.glow.scot account if they are accessing any information. And if you recorded your first Screencastify video, shared it to the classroom, but students couldn't view it, prompting them to log in. So what I would say, I tend to put my Screencastify videos onto YouTube and just share them as unlisted. And that's sometimes a bit easier for me. I will tell you what, with that one, I'll look into that one and I'll pop an answer a bit more fully into our Google Classrooms later, and I'll test it all out myself this morning, or this afternoon really, just to make sure that I've got the right instructions and workflow for you for that. We'll try it out. Next thing to show you is just if you do have any work that students have shared with you in Classroom, and I did mention this the other day, is just making sure that if you can't see it on Classroom, and we've certainly had some people mention this, the students might have just shared it with you and it'll turn up in your shared with me file, menu in Google Drive. So this shared with me is where you'll often find that work has a student just shared it, clicked on that share button and shared it with you individually, rather than shared it with via Classroom. And it's obviously a lot of this is in your workflow to students, so they may not have seen that they can just upload it onto Google Classroom. And yes, so if your work is on your My Drive, it is private to you. So your My Drive here, so long as you don't have a little person in the folders, only you can see that. So the ones here with the people in them, I'll zoom in a bit more. See the little person icon inside it. Someone else can view or edit the files in that folder. All the ones that are below here, so long as if I click on share and then advanced, it's private and only I can access it. So that's another way of just checking that no one else can view it. But if it's something that you go and create in your Google Drive, it is private to you. Next thing is the shared drives. So this is where in East Lothian we have got the ELC Distance Learning Resources shared drive. In Mid Lothian, this is maybe something that's not used yet. So as a school, you could create a shared drive. I've got a couple of questions here. So can you work out where the work comes from if no name, like a random photo? So yes, if something is shared with you, you can click on the document. So I'll open this one. And if you click on share, or you can hover over share, you'll see that people at EduBuzz with the link can view it. Or if I open, let's go with this one, and then click on share, and then I can see who has access to this. So I can see who actually owns this and that I have been shared into it. Okay, so that's the way to see it. If you don't want to have access to it, you can click on share and then you can remove yourself. So you can click on that cross and take yourself off the document. So I know I get things shared with me from students who get my name mixed up with a teacher's name. So I just unshare that. I click on that cross, take myself off of the document so that I am not getting all these files. To be honest, I don't really look at shared with me very much because I tend to have quite a lot of things shared. I only look at things that I'm expecting to have. So yeah, just make sure you click on share and then you can click on that cross next to your name to remove yourself so you don't have access to it. Likewise, if it's you've shared it with somebody else, you can click on their name, click on that cross next to it, and you can remove them. So to create a shared drive in this space, it used to have a little create new drive at the top here, but they've removed that. It's either clicking on this new button and then give it a name and create. And this is a way where we can share ownership with other people. So if you are working in a school and you want to share all the documents you've been creating for distance learning, you could create a shared drive area. For those of you in East Lothian, you're maybe a bit more familiar with shared drives just because you're a member of one. And then you can add members to this. So if I type in Stuart's name, and then I can change his level of access. So I can have him as another manager like myself. I can have him as a content manager where he can't add members, but he can add, edit, and remove the files that are there, or simply as someone who contributes to it. So add and edit, but they cannot delete anything. They can only see what is there, or comment or view. So they can't edit any of the files, but they can comment or view them. I'll make him another manager and send. He'll then get an invite to this, and then I can then go in here and I can add new documents. I could add new folders. I could drag and drop things from my files up to here so that they're all backed up in one place and we can all access it. If you are a member of a shared drive already, I had a question just to ask me to go over how to take some of the work, so in the East Lothian distance learning resources, and have it in your own Google Drive. So that was a question I was asked this morning to go over. So I'll do that now. So I've opened the East Lothian distance learning resource. And because I'm someone who can contribute files to this, if I click on make a copy, it will make a copy and keep it in that Google Drive, in that shared drive area. So the way to make a copy of it to go into your own Google Drive is to open it, then go on to File, make a copy, and then this is where we can change this folder. So we can change it from being in East Lothian distance learning resources to our My Drive. And then I can select this and then I can click OK. And now this is in my own Google Drive. It's not in that shared space anymore. It's in my Google Drive. So now I can double check that by clicking on our small file icon up at the top here. And it is in my Drive folder. So that's not going to be anywhere where other people will see how I'm editing it. It is simply there for me and me alone. So yeah, I'll do that once more because I know that's a new workflow. And to be honest, I was only working out this morning because I've never really had to do this. So click on a file to open it. So I'll find one from first level. So outdoor learning, click on it to open it, file, make a copy. And then rather than it staying in this folder, we want to click on there, click on this back arrow until you get basically back to the main menu. And then you have My Drive, double click. You can choose the folder or you can just hit select. And then that will go into your My Drive folder. And then don't click these other things and then just select OK. It will open it straight away. and you can then close the other tab so you're not editing the wrong one. It says copy of at the top, and then we can click on this folder at the side to make sure it's in our My Drive. So that's how we can make sure it's there. They're the main things really for me to go over in the Google Drive bit today. You do have a bin, so you can go through anything that is deleted. The starred is if we right click on a file, we can add a star, add to starred, and that's just a way of quickly accessing files. I don't tend to use it. I've only got these two in here as examples from videos I've recorded, and priority I never use, but this is where you can create workspaces for just quick access files again. But for me, I tend to just use this quick access bit along the top of Drive. Any other questions, pop them in the chat. I'm aware I've kept you all a bit longer today for that. On Monday, we are talking about, oh, it's Google Classroom again on Monday. So I'm repeating Classroom on Monday, and I'm going to look at a feedback session. I might try, if you want to suggest a kind of time of day in the chat that would be suitable for a feedback session, I could always do that straight after Monday's session, or I can give a bit more notice for that. But yeah, I'm going to do one on a bit of feedback as well in Classroom. But thank you to those of you who have come along. I hope you all have a lovely Friday. It seems to be nice weather. I'm hoping for a barbecue for lunch. I've had barbecues for lunch the last few days. But certainly, I hope you all have a lovely weekend and manage to keep yourselves busy in some way. Thank you. I'll stop recording that now.